Bucs, Cowboys, your best bets with BMatt and where you should be betting tonight. Plus, Michelle Beadle has some thoughts on the royal family you may or may not agree on. We are The Spread coming at you on this Martin Luther King Day. Let's run the tape. Welcome into The Spread. As always, I'm your host, Matias Weilmann, and as always, I'm joined by one Brian Matthews, aka BMatt. But before we give you Brian's best bets for today, and it is for the game that's going on tonight, the Dallas Cowboys and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I want to remind you that we will be live on YouTube and Twitter for the duration of that game. We'll be going online at about 8 o'clock. The game starts at 8:15 tonight with Dead Prez Picks and Slop Rules. It's their live betting simulcast. You'll get all their pregame bets and all their live bets so you can watch with a couple friends and bet with them as well. Again, we'll be going live on YouTube and Twitter at 8 o'clock. Game starts at 8:15 for the Cowboys and Bucs. Now it's time to have a chat with Mr. Brian Matthews, a.k.a. BMatt. Brian, hope you had a good weekend, and thanks for joining the show.
I appreciate you having me on. We had some good football this weekend, some close games, so no complaints here. Just hoping to get another good one tonight.
Yeah, it should be good tonight, right? I mean, there's definitely the possibility that it's bad, but probably at least a little entertaining. I mean, you can always kind of bank on these two teams meeting up, being entertaining. I figured this is probably a good time to just kind of take what the public is doing and see what you think about those numbers. That sound good to you?
Yeah, let's let it roll.
Okay, so I got these numbers pulled up here. First, just some numbers to know. So far, the overs have been hitting 5-0 so far in these playoffs. Underdogs 4-1 against the spread. Just a reminder that Tom Brady and the Bucs are 2.5-point underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
Brady himself 7-0 against the Cowboys all time, 4-0 against the spread as a playoff underdog. And under 500 teams, which, again, the Bucs did go under 500, but won the division, are 3-1 against the spread in the playoffs all time. So taking that, are these kind of trends that you look at seriously, or is it just kind of like a coincidence type of thing?
So, no, I mean, there's definitely some stock you put into it. But at the same time, it's, you also have to look at the current state of the team, right? So historical data is always great. It's a good guide. But this year I found if you were to go off historical data with Tom Brady, you'd be in a lot more losing situations than you would be winning. Just he hasn't had a great year, and it's not, I mean, everyone has kind of seen it. So I look at it, though, I do think Tampa matches up pretty well against this Dallas team. So I do think when you're looking at the points, I'm not sure what the line is currently. I know earlier in the week we were talking about it, and like the line, at least Tampa Bay with the points. I still do. I think they match up pretty favorably, and you can never count out Brady, no matter how up and down the season's been.
Right now, the line is resting at 2.5. It opened up at 3. It's gone down to 2.5 again, plus 2.5 for the Bucs. The data according to DraftKings. The Cowboys are actually getting 61% of the handle. The over 45.5 getting 64% of the handle as well, and then the Bucs money line getting 63% of the handle and 66% of the bets. Over on the BetMGM side, which again it started at 3. Is now gone to 2.5. It's an even 50-50 split on that spread. Then you go over to the over. Again, that's at 44.5 at BetMGM. 63% of the bets going in on the over. And then on the money line, again, very favored towards the Bucs being in the plus territory. 78% of the bets, 69% of the handle. Are you surprised by any of these numbers at all, or is it just kind of your pulse on the game as well?
No, I don't think too much of that surprises me. I mean, this is one of the closer ones, and I'd say one of the tougher ones to read when you have these two teams, because you have Dak Prescott on one hand, who recently has been turning the ball over at will, just throwing a lot of interceptions. Tom Brady hasn't looked great, but then you look at not the last week when they sat guys. The week before that, you look at Mike Evans, and they finally got going. You're like, all right, is that a sign of things to come, right? Or is that kind of the flash? So, when you look at these teams, they both are good defensively and both, give up certain things defensively and, have their skills. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I think they match up well. It should be a close game. I don't expect a blowout tonight.
All right, let's give the people some props. Again, we're going to go through the bet on props, both DraftKings and BetMGM. I'm going to give you 3 of the top ones. I want you to tell me if you could only take one, which one would it be? Let's start with first touchdown scorer today. It's the same for all books, except the order is a little flipped. For BetMGM, it's Zeke first at plus 700, CeeDee Lamb plus 850, and then Mike Evans at plus 950. And that's in descending order of most popular bets. And then on DraftKings, it's plus 750 for Zeke. He's still first, but Mike Evans is second, plus 1,000. CeeDee Lamb is plus 950. As always, make sure you're going on OddsChecker and cross-comparing using our grid to make sure you're getting the best value. So Zeke, Lamb, and Evans. What do you like there, just odds-wise, to score the first touchdown?
All right. So I know Zeke has, scored a touchdown, in like 9 of his last 10 games. But, just looking at the matchup, if I had to pick one, and I think my favorite wouldn't even be on the board right now, but if I had to pick one of these, I think I would go CeeDee Lamb just based on volume, right? And the amount that Dak looks to him. The Tampa Bay offense, too, seems to struggle getting out of the gates, early in games, and then tend to try to piece things together toward the end. So I'll go CeeDee Lamb there.
Can I ask what your pick would be if it's not
Yeah,
on the board,
of course.
or are you going to tell us that later?
Two guys have made me a lot of money this year and last year: Dalton Schultz and Dawson Knox. And hey, look, if I'm picking another one, I'm going Dalton Schultz. There's a ton of value there. I think he's seeing about 46 or 47% of the red zone targets from Dak, which is a big number. Mm-hmm. So he's someone, and the Bucs have had a little trouble. He had a good game against them earlier this year. So I think Dalton Schultz is one to keep an eye on.
Okay, let's move on to our second category. It's anytime touchdown this time. Mm-hmm. And again, it's the same 3 guys for both of these books. They are in the same order here. For BetMGM, it's Zeke at plus 115, Mike Evans at plus 140, and CeeDee Lamb at plus 145. Over on DraftKings, it's Zeke at plus 105, Mike Evans at plus 150, and CeeDee at plus 140. For anytime touchdown there, I know you kind of just talked about CeeDee being the first time touchdown score, so that kind of knocks them both off. So let's take him out of the conversation. So between Zeke and you can't double up. I can't make it too easy for you.
Yeah, I mean that's too obvious.
Yeah. So between Zeke at 115 or 105 and Mike Evans at 140 or 150, which do you prefer here?
No, Mike Evans. Listen, look, if you look at everyone talks about this Cowboys defense being very good. If you actually go through the numbers, they're bottom 13 in the amount of receiving yards they're giving up to opposing teams per game. So when you look at that, Mike Evans has to have a little confidence at least going into the playoffs. That he kind of snapped that little slide he had going of no touchdowns and some down games where Godwin was kind of dominating the touches. So after breaking out for 200 yards and a few touchdowns, I think Evans might be primed for another decent night.
Okay, so we got CeeDee to open up the scoring today, and then Mike Evans to get on the scoreboard at any time. We have one more segment. It's the most bet on props. So again, I'll start with BetMGM. This is according to how many tickets they've received for this. So you have Rachaad White under 35.5 rushing yards. I know that's been a favorite of yours, so that's an interesting way to start. You can get that at minus 110. Tom Brady over half rushing yards at plus 175. According to BetMGM, that has gotten 99% of the total ticket on the over. And I think he's only done that 6 times this season. So that's, again, interesting 1-2 punch. And then number 3 is a little more, I guess, sane. Brady over 277.5 passing yards at minus 110. Over on the DraftKings side, the most popular one is Brady over a passing yard and a half, minus 150. Brady over 250 passing yards. That's an alternate line at minus 265. So you give up quite a bit of juice there. And then Dak Prescott over a half interception at minus 180. So I know I threw a lot of numbers at you.
Sure.
But what do you like from there?
I think if I had to pick one, it's Tom Brady over 277.5 passing yards. The reason why, look, this Tampa Bay running game has been non-existent all year. They've tried with Fournette and Rachaad White, and even Gio Bernard at times, but they just have not been able to get anything going. And so when you watch them, a lot of their running game almost becomes these short passes, right? That becomes an extension of the run game. So, I'm not, look, playoff Lenny is there. I get it. That's the thing. But if I think there's a way that the Bucs are going to attack the Cowboys tonight, I'm not sure that it's going to be on the ground, even though they get Ryan Jensen back potentially. I still think the way to attack the opposition is through the air. So I think that's the way they'll go about it.
Yeah, and you guys talked about this on the huddle last week as well. Just it becomes a very obvious possibility here that the Cowboys jump out to like a 2-score lead, and then it's just dink and dunk all the way down the field. Which, if you have his passing yards, that
Yeah.
really works. You can see this being like a 2 touchdown, 1 interception, and like 300 passing yards, which like looks good statistically. And you're like, well, he did not
Yeah,
play well.
didn't do. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we'll see though. Playoff Brady. Let's see if let's see if he comes back out. And it's funny. I was looking at those. I'm like, I haven't played any of those personally. So if I were picking one though, I think that's the one that would jump out. Although Dak Prescott's interceptions have been a wagon lately as well.
Yeah, that is basically been a lock at this
Yeah.
point. I want to ask you now your personal props. You know, you mentioned that you like some of them, but you hadn't bet them personally. What are you rocking with tonight? What have you already bet on?
Yeah. So look, I mentioned the Bucs that I think that they're going to try to look attack the Cowboys through the air, and the most consistent piece to that part, or pieces. Pardon me, the most important piece to that equation, at least one of them easily, is Chris Godwin. I mean, he helps move the sticks, at will. He's seen, at times 14, 15 targets in a single game this year. And if they're passing the ball a lot, I think Brady would go to him. So I like Chris Godwin over 6.5 receptions, which I think is a solid prop. I think they're going to be feeding him, and he takes a lot of those short balls, especially when Evans isn't getting anything going down the field. So I like Godwin tonight. And then I mentioned Dalton Schultz, right? So I was looking at which way to attack this and looking at his receiving yards. They're at 39.5 right now is the over-under. And then, you have to eat a little bit of juice. I think it's minus 132 for his over 3.5 receptions. But, I think he gets the 4 catches. There are a lot of times where it's this kind of short dink and dunk type of throws. So I like Dalton Schultz over 3.5 receptions at minus 132. I think that's pretty solid value right there too.
Okay, so we're rocking with Dalton Schultz and we're rocking with Chris Godwin. Before
right.
I let you go, one last question. Were you bold enough to bet on the Jags live? And what line did you get them at if you did?
It was plus 2,100. It was a sprinkle, but yes, I mean, I said it on the show. Chargers are going to charge it, right? And look, yeah, I'm not going to tell you I put a unit on it, right? But it was a sprinkle. You just thought, all right, something could happen. You just don't know. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think that was going to hit, but sure glad it did. Yeah. And my pick was good too, right? I know that I had some opposition on the Chargers end, so
I think I put like 50 cents. I got them at like plus 1,000.
There you go.
And
so you had to put, everyone knew you had to put. You just had to put a little something, like just a little bit.
Yeah, made it a little more fun to watch as well. Exactly. Brian, really appreciate you joining the show, and good luck tonight.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
So we're gonna go from the gridiron to the royal court, I guess you can call it. You can't really call it the royal court anymore. There has been a lot of beef with the royal family, or royal family extended at this point, between Prince Harry, the media, and the rest of the royal family. I decided to have a chat with Michelle Beadle, see what she thought about it. She told me a couple weeks ago she wasn't huge into the royal family, and suffice to say that has changed a little bit to this point. We're back on OddsChecker TV, one of my favorite segments here on The Spread, buzzing with Beadle with the one and only Michelle Beadle. You can see her on FanDuelTV. Michelle, welcome back to the show, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, I know. Happy New Year. I feel like, what's the cutoff for Happy New Year statements? Is that it? Was that our last one?
Yeah, I don't like it's a weird time because you have the holidays right before, and you're like, when do I stop saying Happy Holidays, and when do I stop saying New Year's? When does it get sad? When do I have to like start doing work again and stop making excuses? It's
yeah. So when does the gym empty out? I think I have another week before everyone picks up. So then we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know what I would put my number at for when the gym would empty out. Michelle, I wanted to get your thoughts on something that has really been trending and just been the fulcrum of pop culture recently. And this is the whole Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and royal family drama. Now, I know when we did our Golden Globes breakdown, you said you weren't super into The Crown. And I think I also said that I wasn't into the royal family. If I didn't, I'm not super into it. I never really got it. I'm not a big fan of, paparazzi chasing people around.
Right.
But here we are, a couple weeks later, and it is quite literally unavoidable. Like, I think everyone is talking about it. You have the memoir coming out on Tuesday from Prince Harry's side. Obviously, he has since split from the royal family. Tell me what side you're on, and if you have a favorite or least favorite character in all this beef.
You know what? I wish to pick a side is just, it's impossible because both sides are unbearable, right? Like on the one side, it's the royal family. Ooh. On the other side,
one side's good.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like there's no great side here. Harry and Meghan. So I will say this. I was in the camp of blaming Meghan for everything, which is a really bad feminist role that I took upon myself. However, I now realize that he on his own is also very unlikable, which I would have never guessed given, a decade or two ago, thinking, oh, this kid is he's his mother's son. And the stuff that has come out in the last week or so, because he's giving us just bits and pieces of the book, just so sloppy and so not what we're used to with this buttoned up royal family, and that you're not even allowed to wear colored nail polish. Like, it's ridiculousness, right? On one end. And now you got him talking about his drug use and virginity and all that stuff. And I'm like, it's everything.
Stuff I didn't need to know.
I didn't need to know, but yet now I do. And as a consumer of pop culture, it's what you want out of biography. But yeah, it's not making me like him anymore, but somehow I keep consuming it in the same way I consume garbage on a daily basis. And I'm ashamed of myself for admitting that.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Again, I wasn't like super into it, but then I'm reading about, him describing losing his virginity and being a young stallion is in there. And then like drug use is in there. And it's just like, even, I don't know how much of the documentary you've enjoyed. I'm a couple episodes in, I'm almost done, but it's like, it's a funny way of just flip-flopping from like, yeah, I used to do cocaine as a kid. Also, I go do charity work in Africa. It's like, I guess they're not mutually exclusive, but
no.
You mentioned the virginity part. That's just weird to say.
I mean, it's weird to say.
I'm glad there's at least some context behind that before I just say it's the virginity part. You have this story now of Prince William like choking out Prince Harry and calling Meghan like unbearable, and just it's. As much as any side you can be on, you gotta at least kind of feel bad for them.
Nope.
Okay, never mind.
No, not at all. No, I don't, because here's why.
Mine is like 2%.
They want to be victim. Like, this is the thing. They sign a multi-$100 million deal. They get this book. They got this documentary, all based on sort of this victimhood that I feel like they're the only ones that are buying at this point, because you're not really victims. Your mom was a victim, and you were a victim as far as losing your mom at an early age. But after that, like, what are we talking about? And so we've all had fights with our siblings, whether it be verbal or physical or both. He's trying to paint this out as like, oh, he picked on me. No, you guys are brothers, and now you're writing about it. And I have zero
brother
sympathy.
Beat your ass. That's it.
Right. Like, I've been in physical fights with my sister. I mean, I'm not going to write a book about how it was all her fault. And I mean, it was, but I'm not a victim. So to me, I have zero sympathy, and I think it's as a result that they want us to give them sympathy, and I don't see any reason to. I really, it's a false victimhood to me, and it's not a good look. It's not a good look.
I think my sympathy goes so far as like paparazzi. Like,
Sure.
We talk about that a lot with Princess Diana, and even in the documentary he talks about how he was chased around by paparazzi, and even doing things, getting drunk at a nightclub when you're 17, 18 years old is, I guess, a fairly common thing. Not that I'm advising underage drinking, but just having people chase him around. But I think that's probably my extent of feeling bad.
Well, give me a break. Like, guess what? You don't have to work a day in your life. Your family, for generations and generations and centuries, has been taken care for by the public. You have zero responsibility other than shaking hands and smiling and maybe, I don't know, not being a douche for 5 minutes. And that's like, you want to feel, I would love a gig where I don't have to do anything for the rest of my life, and everything is taken care. I've got castles to choose from. Where do I want to summer? Where do I want to win? Zero sympathy, less than if possible.
Have you ever been chased around by paparazzi? I should have started with
No. I think I've been asked a question by paparazzi once, and I lied. I made up a big story right when they did it. So yeah, no, I don't think it would be fun, but it's, unfortunately, it's the birth that you were given, and they've chosen to leave it, kind of, except they're not giving up Duke and Duchess titles. And you've come over here where, in fact, you're actually garnering more attention. So again, They wanted privacy. That was a lie. It's just, I look, we live in a world where I'm siding with Pierce Morgan. This is how I'm hitting rock bottom. Like,
It's a rough world we're living in.
This is it. This is what's happening. Ugh.
We have betting odds for them to break up, and a pretty scathing quote. But I do want to ask you one more thing. Have you ever had a bad fan experience, or what has been your worst fan experience where someone just like wouldn't leave you alone or something?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those where they I've had one show up from out of state to my brother's house. Thankfully he wasn't home, but yeah, I don't know how he even got that address. We had one that followed all the way to Bristol, Connecticut and thought we were dating. I guess those are like weird stalkery fans. But yeah, it's but then they don't have any, and then you realize that it's all over.
You're like, oh, I'd like to have just like a calm down fan interaction.
I miss my one stalker. Yes. I know, yeah. No, I should.
I hope your stalker's not. Hope your brother or your stalker's not watching us.
Yeah, right. No, my brother's definitely not, but maybe the stalker.
So I wanted to ask. We can't bet on this in the States, unfortunately, but you can get these markets overseas. And of course, you can always go to OddsChecker to get the latest data and all the breakdown on some of these betting data, like we talked about the Golden Globes a couple of weeks ago, and also the breakup odds for Harry and Meghan. So we have this quote from one of her friends. I'm going to read it verbatim here. She said, "I think they will suddenly realize I have made a massive mistake. I do because everything he was brought into his family, he would have lost, and I don't think the Windsor brothers will ever get back from this." So that's one of Meghan's very close friends saying that she thinks they're going to break up. Now, the odds right now are for them to split up at plus 600, so that's pretty good value. But for them to not split up is plus 1250. So if you had to bet here, which side are you putting money on?
Well, I mean, look, two people stay together long enough, they will break up. So that's a tricky one, right?
That's the spirit.
But you're welcome. But I 100% think that they will, in fact, break up. So for me, that's a lock. That's as close to a lock as I've ever even come across. So yes, they will break up.
Do you think he would be welcome back? Like how would that work? Because obviously things are a little different now.
I mean, look, I don't know how their family is. I know in my family, once you're dead, you're dead. There's no coming back from that. But they may be a little more, as the Brits like to be, a little classier, maybe more forgiving. They've remained relatively quiet. I'm sure everything behind closed doors is screaming this and that. But I think they would bring him back. I think, and like they're set for life. She's set for life for sure. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's not a bad investment. You give up a few years of life, pretend you're in love with someone, blah, 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 write a book, do a memoir, and boom, set for life. Not bad. That, you know what? Yeah. Suits wasn't paying that kind of money. Good gig.
And if they are, then if they're still hiring, I'm
right.
If any member of the royal family wants to hit me up, you can go through my non-existent age.
My socials.
Yeah.
The kids say.
Well, Michelle, I appreciate you hopping on the show. I guess we're going to have to wait and see how this unfolds and what other weird either drug or sex-related stories come out in the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you joining the show.
Thank you.
That'll do it for tonight. I want to thank Michelle and Brian for joining the show. We'll be back with you on Friday previewing the divisional round in football, all your best bets on the soccer pitch, and a lot more. Talk to you guys then.